Hello there, and welcome back to Non Name Talks.
It's great to be here. Have you ever spent time with someone, maybe a colleague, a relative, or even a partner, and you walk away feeling not just tired, but fundamentally depleted?
Yes.
Like your mental batteries didn't just run low, but like someone actively siphoned all the charge right out of them.
That specific feeling, that profound emotional exhaustion, is often the clearest, earliest signal that you are entangled in a relationship dynamic that is, well, that's actively toxic.
Exactly. And this deep dive is all about mapping out that invisible landscape of toxicity. We're going far beyond just surface level irritation to really understand the people whose behavior negatively impacts your mental and emotional state.
Causing, sustained stress and immeasurable loss of energy.
Our mission today is pretty comprehensive. We want to give you a structural understanding of these damaging dynamics, whether they show up in your personal life, your family, or your workplace.
And you need practical psychological strategies for defense, for protection, and I think this is the most important part, for reclaiming your self-worth and your mental strength.
Okay, so let's start with the anatomy of toxicity itself. Our sources define a toxic relationship as one where basically the suffering consistently outweighs the happiness.
Which leads to emotional pain, damaged self-confidence, and this sort of slow, creeping erosion of your core identity.
And we look at the specific tools used to achieve that erosion, we have to zero in on a really dangerous psychological tactic: gaslighting. The term is so common now, but I think it's worth revisiting its origins because it explains the mechanism so well.
It really does. The term comes from the 1944 film Gaslight.
Movie, right?
Exactly, where a manipulative husband tries to convince his wife she's going insane by subtly changing things in their environment, like dimming the literal gas lights.
And then just denying it.
And then fiercely denying that anything has changed, insisting she's the one who's imagining it.
So the modern application isn't about manipulating light bulbs, but it's absolutely about manipulating your perception of reality.
Precisely. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where one person consistently rejects or minimizes or just flat out denies the other person's reality, their emotional reactions, their memory of events.
And the goal?
The goal is to plant such intense self-mistrust and skepticism that the victim becomes entirely dependent on the perpetrator's version of the truth.
What makes this so insidious is how normal the language can sound. It's not always overt abuse, is it?
Not at all. It's often packaged as concern or, skepticism. Think of phrases like, "Are you thinking too much about this?" Or, "Did you really see that?" Or, "Are you remembering it wrong?"
Wow.
Even things that sound like affection, like, "I'm only doing this because I care about you so much," are used to plant guilt and self-doubt. It weaponizes your own conscience against you.
So if you're exposed to this constantly, the impact goes way beyond a bad mood. What are the key indicators that someone is being gaslit?
The signs are devastating because they all point toward the dismantling of the self. The victim often ends up constantly apologizing for things they haven't done.
They start believing they're just fundamentally incapable of doing anything right.
Yes, and living with this persistent anxiety. They genuinely start losing their sense of self-identity and competence.
The constant questioning of your own judgment. That must be the most exhausting part. You can't even trust your own memory of a conversation anymore.
That's the psychological quicksand, and it leads directly to fear and isolation. Victims often start withdrawing from friends and family because they feel strange and they're terrified of disappointing the person who is, controlling their reality.
When you're questioning every thought, every feeling, you retreat to the only perceived certainty left, the manipulator.
Exact.
Okay, so that deep dive into the micro tactic of gaslighting gives us a framework. So let's zoom out. What are the macro warning signs that a whole relationship is toxic?
We look for patterns. The first and maybe the most destructive pattern is the constant erosion of self-esteem.
This isn't just arguing.
No, we're talking about constant targeted criticism, sometimes disguised as jokes or advice. Things like, "I don't like that outfit," or "Your face looks older with short hair."
These are all comments that just chip away at you.
Until you're desperate for that person's approval. And that leads directly to a massive power imbalance.
Right, where one person clearly holds all the decision-making power. That violates the basic principle of equality that any healthy relationship needs.
Absolutely. This power imbalance then expresses itself as excessive control or manipulation. We see clear markers here.
Like what?
Giving orders, controlling money, checking phones without permission, or the classic move of forcing you to cut ties with your friends and family.
Isolation. It's the foundation of control.
Mm-hmm.
There's another warning sign that feels particularly painful, and that's the trap of waiting for change. You know the relationship is destructive, but you're just stuck hoping.
And here's where we get to the core psychological trap. It's called intermittent reinforcement.
Okay, what's that?
Toxic dynamics are rarely just constant suffering. They deliver these periodic moments of kindness, affection, or apology, the honeymoon phase, sandwiched between all the bad behavior.
So you get just enough good stuff to keep you hooked.
Exactly. That random positive reward is incredibly addictive. It trains you to stay, convinced that if you just wait or try harder, the good person will come back. And that hope becomes a wasted investment of years.
That reframes the waiting for change sign from a moral failing to a behavioral trap. What else should we be looking for?
A feeling of pervasive insecurity. A good relationship should draw out the best in you. A toxic one actively drains your confidence. Also, listen to your friends and family. If they are expressing sincere worry, you need to hear them out.
And what about volatility, like extreme reactions to small things?
That's a huge red flag. If a partner reacts with anger or rage to a simple request, that's a problem. And crucially, if one partner is just completely closed off to the other's opinions, you have no foundation for communication.
So when you package all of that together, the criticism, the control, the volatility, the hope trap, what is the inevitable fallout when you stay in that environment?
Well, the mental and physical costs are immense. It's not just feeling sad, it's sustained high-level damage to your body's operating system.
I mean, it makes you physically sick.
Exactly. Your body gets stuck in chronic stress. The psychological demands keep you in a sustained fight or flight mode.
Right.
And this constant cortisol and adrenaline bath causes very real physical symptoms.
Yeah.
Chronic headaches, insomnia, digestive issues, a weakened immune system.
Mentally, that stress shows up as anxiety, constant worry, overthinking, panic attacks. And then eventually, depression can set in.
Feelings of worthlessness, loss of self-confidence, frequent crying, and if that state continues, you hit emotional burnout.
This is more than just being tired.
It's way more. It's when your body's regulatory systems start to crash, you become fatigued, you have no energy, and critically, you lose interest in things you used to love. You stop functioning like your true self because all your energy is just going toward managing the toxic dynamic.
That idea of burnout as a system shutdown is so important. So knowing the cost, let's talk defense. The core principle has to be this. You cannot change the toxic person. The only thing you can control is your reaction.
That realization is your ultimate act of reclaiming your power. And the first step is setting clear boundaries. You have to explicitly communicate what is and is not acceptable.
For instance, saying something like, I won't accept being insulted, please stop.
Exactly. And when we communicate those needs, we should try to use the I statement structure. It's a highly effective tool.
Because it removes the accusation, right?
It focuses on your internal reality. It has 3 parts. You state your feeling, you state the event that caused it, and you state your expectation or request.
So an example.
Sure, let's say you have a friend who is always complaining. You could say, I feel emotionally drained the feeling when our conversations are only about complaints in the event. Going forward, let's agree to change the topic if we're dwelling on negative stuff for too long, the expectation.
That requires a lot of discipline. Speaking of which, let's talk about the gray rock technique.
Yeah.
This sounds, emotionally taxing for someone who's already burned out.
It is at first, but its power lies in minimizing future energy loss. The goal of the gray rock method is to act boring and unresponsive, to become as interesting as a gray rock.
You just give them nothing.
Nothing. You respond briefly, show zero emotion, share no personal information.
And why does this work?
Because toxic people, especially narcissists, feed on emotional reaction, on drama. If you're a gray rock, you're not giving them the fuel they need. They get bored and often move on to someone else who will provide that drama.
So the simplest defense is just reducing interaction and practicing the word no.
Yes. Limit contact and practice politely but firmly refusing requests without feeling like you have to give these long justifying excuses. And finally, trust your intuition. If your gut tells you something is wrong, listen to it.
Okay, let's apply these defense mechanisms to 2 really challenging environments. The workplace and the family. In an office, toxic behavior can derail entire teams.
It can. For leaders, if you're facing a toxic employee and firing isn't an option, you need to manage it strategically. First, find the root cause. Is it burnout? Personal stress? Then provide direct, factual feedback.
And outline the consequences.
Clearly, outline the non-negotiable consequences if the behavior persists and document everything. That's for organizational protection.
And for employees dealing with toxic colleagues.
You need specific tactics. If you have a blame shifter who always deflects fault onto you, you have to stay calm and just present the objective facts to management. Don't get drawn into their drama.
And what about the tyrant boss? The one who controls through aggression?
With a tyrant boss, the key is to depersonalize it. Ask clearly what the objectives are. Don't try to win their affection. Instead, show your competence through strong, reliable performance. That's the only currency they really respect.
Now, transitioning to the family unit. This is, I think, the most complex area. Cutting ties with family is just fraught with difficulty.
The societal pressure is immense. We are constantly told family is everything, or you only get one mother. So when those people are the source of your deepest pain, the guilt and shame can feel paralyzing.
It keeps people trapped.
It does. So once you decide to create distance, you have to figure out how. There are two main approaches: low contact and no contact.
Low contact is what? Just seeing them less?
It's controlled interaction, limited to neutral, surface-level topics, maybe only seeing them on holidays, keeping visits short. This works when the person is just difficult but not actively abusive.
No contact.
No contact is severing all ties: physical, digital, social. It's an act of ultimate self-preservation, often required in situations of sustained abuse. It's not about a failure to forgive. It's recognizing that some people are just fundamentally unsafe for your mental health.
And what about parents who become toxic? Often it seems to come not from malice, but from something else.
It often stems from their own anxiety about the child's future, or trying to fulfill their own unmet expectations through their child. The focus shifts from the child's needs to the parent's needs.
This is where the kind but firm principle is so critical, even for adult children setting boundaries with their parents.
Absolutely. KBF is essential. You establish boundaries with kindness, understanding where their anxiety comes from, but with absolute firmness about the boundaries themselves. You use reason and predictable consequences, not raw emotion.
For parents who are still raising children, this principle translates to what?
4 checks: consistency of attention or time, prioritizing ending bad days on a good note, which is importance, not being afraid to let children face natural consequences, or teaching, and most importantly, the parent's own commitment to their mental health. Self-care. You can't be kind and firm if you are running on empty.
This has been a heavy but really necessary conversation. Let's finish with the path forward. Healing and building resilience, because recovery is definitely not a straight line.
It is absolutely nonlinear. Healing from this kind of abuse can take months, even years. It's normal to struggle with independence, and because of that addictive cycle we talked about, it's even normal to sometimes miss the abuser. You have to prepare for those dips.
The first, most foundational step in healing is just continuously affirming that the abuse is not your fault. The toxic person is 100% responsible for their actions.
And to combat the intense self-doubt from gaslighting, you have to document everything. Keep a journal of your feelings, of key events. This becomes your external proof, your confirmation of reality.
And then rebuilding self-esteem from the ground up. Focusing on your strengths, actively challenging negative self-talk, and keeping a list of your personal wins, no matter how small they seem.
And for those moments when trauma flashbacks strike, use grounding exercises like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method to pull your mind back into the safety of the present moment.
It's all about being kind to yourself.
Yes, practicing self-compassion. This means fundamentally shifting your internal voice from a harsh critic, which often sounds a lot like the abuser, to a nurturing, supportive inner advocate.
So you're giving yourself the validation you were denied.
Precisely. And in terms of building long-term mental strength, mindfulness and deep breathing are foundational. It also helps to recall specific times in the past when you felt mentally strong. You remind yourself that that power to protect your own peace is still in you.
The whole philosophy for recovery, then, is really about energy management.
It is. Remember to water what waters you. Actively invest your time and emotional energy in people, places, and activities that nourish you, and strictly refuse to become an emotional landfill for anyone else's drama.
So you invest your energy toward the life you are actively building, not just toward avoiding conflict with the people you're afraid to let go of.
So what does this all mean? Ultimately, managing toxic relationships is an act of radical self-preservation. Whether you choose firm boundaries or gray rock or low contact, the unifying goal is the validation of your reality and the reclamation of your fundamental self-worth. We observe that a healthy dynamic, whether in a family or a partnership, isn't measured by perfection, but by the ability to communicate, apologize, and recover from conflict. If that health requires personal accountability and self compassion to function, what is one non negotiable trait you need to start cultivating in yourself today to design the future life you truly deserve?